Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the last day of PeopleSoft Week. You've joined us today for a discussion on Cabana. We've got a few customers here. We got Michelle and Zach with Jack Henry and Associates, Mark with Hayes Recruitment Specialist, and Sasank with Florida State University. But before I turn it over to them and we start having some conversations, a couple of things to let you guys know. All your phone lines are muted. But because we want this to be an interactive session, feel free to raise your hand at any point and we will be happy to unmute you to join the conversation with our panelists. Again, this is supposed to be an interactive discussion. We would love for you guys to just join, unmute, have some conversations with us. Also, if you don't feel like unmuting and just have questions, feel free to drop them through that question module, and we will be moderating that and answering questions as we can throughout the whole entire session today. We are recording this. We will put it on the Quest library. It's actually going straight on the PeopleSoft Week page, and you'll be able to have access to that as well. So I saw a few folks join. So just a reminder, if you have questions, drop them through that question module. And also feel free to just raise your hand and unmute yourself. We'll be able to unmute yourself so that we can have some conversations with you all around Kibana. So what I'll do to just get us kicked off is I will have each one of the panelists introduce themselves, tell us who they are, their company, their PeopleSoft product and software that they're using or areas they're in, and then also just tell us a little bit about where they are in their journey. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to pop a poll question up asking you guys where you are with your journey and are you planning to use Cabana right now. So I'll turn it over to Michelle to introduce herself.
Thanks, Christina. My name is Michelle Arkenswick. I work for Jack Henry and Associates, and I am the technical lead on the HCM side, but I am heavily involved with the HCM system itself and used to be a business analyst a long time ago. We have just upgraded to 858 and PUM 37, and because we're just now on 858, we are just starting to look at what we want to do with Cabana. We're very excited about getting it implemented, particularly on the HCM side. We are very excited about the time and labor Cabana visualizations that were released in image 38. We're looking forward to the benefit plan enrollment utilization that's coming out in image 39. And we're also interested in some of the workforce visualizations on the HCM side. So we're very excited about being able to roll those things out to users. Zach, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Zach McCormick. Like Michelle, I work at Jack Henry and Associates. I am on the finance side, so I'm a financial systems analyst for FSCM. I've done that for almost 5 years now. So on our FSCM side, we're still on 857. So we're kind of just looking at like what Michelle and some of the others are doing with a little bit of jealousy about, oh, that looks awesome. So we, we're looking at, on the finance side, how can we improve our reporting with the tool and kind of looking at what possibilities we can go at from there. But I'll go ahead and pass it on to Mark.
Thank you. My name's Mark Thomas. I'm the UK IT director at a company called Hayes Specialist Recruitment. So we're in the staffing industry. From a PeopleSoft standpoint, we've got quite a big PeopleSoft footprint. We've got HCM, finance, CRM, ELM. We did an upgrade this year, so we are on PeopleTools 858. The upgrade also brought us up to the latest images in both HCM and finance. From a Cabana perspective, we were very fortunate to have Rebecca Jackson come over to the UK a couple of years ago and got her to do a bit of a presentation to our HCM directors. They all loved what Cabana could do. And so we are really pursuing what we can do initially in that kind of space of internal recruitment. So really looking at the delivered visualizations and what we can do in that space. But also we're quite keen as well to actually sort of look at that area of what we can do in some of the finance space in areas such as billing. So that's where we are. So I'll pass over to Shashank.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kibana, and I work at Florida State University. I work as a lead application architect here, and as you know, FSU is a big enterprise, and we have many applications. From PeopleSoft standpoint, we have right now HCM, financials, and campus solutions, and we are on 8.5.8 on HCM and financials, and campus is still sorry. Let's see, financials and campus is on 8.5.8, and HCM is still on 8.5.7, which we are upgrading to 8.5.9 soon. So with that said, what are we doing with Kibana? We are very much at the exploratory stages right now, looking at what it can do and the potential of it. Of course, we're excited about the data visualization capabilities that it brings in, and not just that, and also just enhanced search. Everything that's coming out with Elasticsearch improvements in 8.5.9. Lots of things to look forward to, and also get started in 8.5.8 as well, right? So this is available in 8.5.8, so we can get started in 8.5.8 and then look for the future improvements in 8.5.9 as well. So that's where we're at, and who do I hand it off to now?
I will take it from here, or I'll take it to start asking some questions to you guys. But before I do that, so for the attendees on the phone, saw several of you guys join. So a couple of things. We are wanting this to be an interactive discussion, so feel free to raise your hand. We'll unmute you guys to have some conversations. We will also be monitoring the chat and the questions, so feel free to drop anything in there. We also have a poll up. I'm going to leave it up for about a minute or two more. We're about 60% of you guys have filled that poll out. So if you guys will please take the time to just answer the question. The question really is, are you planning to use Cabana? Already live or working on it? Plan to start in the next 6 months? Plan to start in the next 7 to 12 months? Sometime in the future, 12 plus months away, or not sure yet, or do not plan to use is the question. While we wait just a little bit longer for that, I'm going to throw it back to you guys. So it looks like you guys are all interested in using Cabana or evaluating the tool set. Can you tell me what is probably the most compelling value proposition that you guys are seeing in the tool itself?
I think for us, it's being able to do reporting and the analytics without the database performance impact. I know that we've had issues trying to do a lot of pivot grids on a page, and with that, it's actually running queries and pulling data from the database, and we've seen a lot of performance impact. It takes a long time to load, and when we're trying to look at a lot of data at once, I think we're really excited about being able to use Cabana and use the indexing so that we can get that much more quickly to users and not worry about, is it going to cause problems, additional problems in the system. And I think just some of the additional visualizations you can do with Cabana that just don't look the same, or you can't do in Pivot Grid or other types of analytics, things like the maps and other things that we can show users that I think would be useful, that it's just a more robust kind of tool, and we're really excited about being able to roll that out.
Hi, it's Mark here. Yeah, I agree with Michelle. I think, for Hayes, the key thing is we currently have to go to a almost like a third-party MI or BI application to actually see the analytics. So having something that's embedded within PeopleSoft and they can see it within a tile on their dashboards, it makes it so much easier for them. So I think when we were showing it to our users, that's what they really liked. They liked it all having the information at the right point in time so that they actually get it to see where it is. And I think they did like the whole visualizations. They like the style, some of the analytics that were just being displayed. I think really wowed our users. So that's what we're looking forward to.
Yeah, on our financial side at Jack Henry, one of the big pushes has been kind of deliver more of a one-stop shop approach to our reporting, especially for what we deliver outside of just our finance area. So what we provide to operations and all that. So one of the things that kind of really, I think, speaks to what they're trying to accomplish and that I see in the tool is, the ability to, kind of like what we were just mentioning there, Mark mentioned, was embedding it in the application where, if we've already got people coming in, managers to come in to do approvals or to do expenses or something like that, they can come to the same system, see their embedded dashboards and all that trending information that maybe we can't do in something like a pivot grid due to the performance, but we can look more at the time series and get some of that trending analysis in that we don't have today, but then still retain that drill ability into transactional details, because that's a big thing for finances, still being able to get into the detailed information as they need to.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said already. Absolutely. I think the one thing is important. Yes, the visualizations is awesome, right? That's great. And also the last point, right? The drilling part is that you can analyze the data in place, right? The data is available. We can do slicing and dicing and narrow it down to what you're looking for. So it kind of becomes like a search also. And Kibana also has its own search, by the way. And eventually you can navigate to transactions. So that's something that is not as apparent, but that's something very critical as well, right? So you now no longer have to figure out how to get to this transaction. You can just land on this dashboards and then figure out the transaction you're looking for in a much more intuitive way. So that's one. And another point that I would like to make is it is open source, right? Kibana is open source, and what that means is most of these things, I wouldn't say it's like super easy, but once you figure it out, it is mainly everything is configurations, right? Elasticsearch, building the search framework configuration, and then going into Kibana and building your dashboard. So I see there was a comment about what is Oracle delivering. You can look it up, I guess, but it's also easy to build your own as well. So that's it doesn't involve a whole lot of development as such. It's more about configuration. So that's also another thing if you're looking at a long term, trying to scale these out for other custom requirements as well. It comes in handy.
Oh, that's really great information, you guys. I would, so I dropped in the chat, but would love to hear for those that are using now or planning to use in the future, which I'm happy to say that 75% of the folks that are attending are saying they're planning to use it or already using it. Only about 25% of you guys are not sure right now. So for those folks that are planning to use it or already using it, that's 16% of you guys. Why? And what is the compelling value proposition for you all? Again, feel free to raise your hand or drop it through the chat there as well. We'd be happy to, again, have you join us. When we did a question.
Christina,
yeah.
Christina, are you going to share the results with everyone?
Yeah, I'm going to give it just a second to see if anybody else figures it out, wants to put in, and then I'll share in just a second.
Okay.
So so we did something, similar to this at Reconnect Envision. And when we did this, one of the biggest drivers, which you guys mentioned, was the visualization pieces. Performance was another big one in it. And then the announcement of real-time indexing was also a pretty big driver that will be enabled in 859. I'm curious if you guys, I know you guys aren't on 859, but what are y'all's thoughts on the real-time indexing?
Yeah, I think that's certainly one of the things that keeps coming up, right? When we compare, I guess we go back some time, we compare Kibana, let's say in 858 versus pivot grids, that used to be something that always gets mentioned, that yeah, pivot grids is more real time and Kibana is more indexed, right? So that there's going to be some lag in terms of when you do the incremental indexing. And that might be fine when you're talking large volumes of data, right? For the most part, you may not require like real time by the second type of information, right? So you, but I guess this covers that gap, I guess, and where there are requirements, you can always make them real-time indexing and use that option. Of course, I've seen the demos and stuff. I haven't played with it yet, but definitely handy to make that not just for Kibana but also for search, right? That's something that gets overlooked. But if you are able to have real-time search results, also that's really cool, because that means you can really search for transactions and drill in directly from there. So user experience is something that will be very much improved with these type of features.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Sasank. Okay, so I did just close the poll, and then I'm also just sharing it back, so hopefully you guys are seeing it on your screen. Are you planning to use Cabana? 16% of you guys are saying already live or working on it, so that's awesome and exciting to see. Again, for those of you guys are already working on it or live, please drop in, your plans or what's your compelling value prop in the chat, please. 23% plan to start in the next 6 months. 17% plan to start in the next 7 to 12 months. 19% are saying sometime in the future, 12 plus months away, and 25% are saying not sure yet or do not plan to use it. So pretty good across the board. Excited to see how many folks, the higher percentage of folks that are looking to use Cabana itself. Some other things that people said were common drivers were just the modern look and feel, the trend reporting, from the admin side, the simple to set up and get running pieces. And then also another thing is several uses and cases that will be able to be utilized for the tool itself. Let's see.
Christina, there was a question that came in. Michael submitted a question about the real-time indexing. Will there be metrics on the real-time indexing, convincing DBAs that a triggered real-time index is okay has been difficult. There's a lot of pushback on new technology that might impact performance. I hear what you're saying there. I know that we have some concerns as well. All I can tell you is that at the Reconnect Envision conference, when Oracle did their Cabana Palooza session, they did talk about that a little bit. They had a support person, Tulip Antar, who actually works in support with Cabana, who said that they haven't seen a whole lot of performance issues at all, except if people are trying to do visualizations with massive data sets and a lot of split series. But with the real-time indexing, I don't know that they had a whole lot to say about that at this point, but I agree that that is a concern, that lots of triggers could potentially cause issues, but at the same time, it's it's pulling that same data when you're running your incremental index as well. So is it doing it real time versus incremental? You're still pulling that same data. So that's kind of my thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I think concern is always there, right? But I think once you start playing with it and testing it, you should be fine. And generally speaking, overall, yes, any new thing we deploy, we would be concerned about performance. So while that is the case, if you think about the metrics, or not really metrics, but how Elasticsearch has compared to previously Oracle SCS, that itself is a clear indication of how things perform on the Elk stack, really. And just based on what I've read online, I don't work for Elk or anything, but I know, big companies like LinkedIn and Netflix and those type of large volume companies use Elastic as well for various things. So performance, yes, there may be some tuning and stuff required overall from the Elk stack point of view, but performance is not really one of the big concerns with this particular technology. Of course, this real-time indexing is something that's introduced by PeopleTools, not Elasticsearch or the Elk stack. So that's definitely something that you want to test out. And like I said earlier, how much of this would you want? Or do you want everything to be real time? That's something, again, customers need to make their own choices, right? There may be certain indexes that may be a good fit for real time, but not everything. So.
Yeah, I think that sounds sensible. From our perspective, I think quite often users will ask for something to be real time, but they don't actually need it in real time. So I think quite often it's a case of really understanding the request, why they're actually making that request, and whether it's really needed, and whether the overtime or the overhead is worthwhile. I think where they can benefit from that, I think it is definitely something that we would look to actually put in some elements on a real time. Some we just kind of run on a batch style basis so that they can still get it that kind of on a daily perspective. But I think it does come down to the use case and whether they really do need it real time.
And we have had a couple of other questions come in, including from Kunal. Has Oracle delivered any new Cabana dashboards other than the 2 AP and financials? Now, I don't know much about the financials dashboards. I know I'm familiar with the HCM ones, but I don't know if anybody that has worked on the finance side, Zach, if you know what's been delivered already.
Yeah, up through, so PUMs 37 and 38 had the most release as far as dashboards after the AP ones. And those ones, there's one for contracts. There's a dashboard for that. There's 3 separate ones for GL, and then there's one for POs for purchasing that they've delivered. So I know there, Amira talked about some additional ones that are kind of in the works. There's some AR ones. I don't know if those ones are out yet or not. And then some additional ones for like actuals versus budget on the GL side as well.
We did have one other question come in from, well, we're getting lots of questions. What was the other question we had? Does anyone on the panel or in the audience use MicroStrategy or Informatica? If so, can you give me a comparison of the functionality and capabilities between them and Cabana? I know we don't.
We use Informatica, but we really use it as that kind of ETL style tool. So we're using it to convert data, almost using it like a macro on steroids style application. So from the visualization perspective, we don't use Informatica for that side of it at all. I think again, it would just be, for us, it's just trying to have all the data in one place and actually then display the visualizations on a tile in the application. It's very much point in time, which I think our users are asking for, rather than to actually have to go out to an external system or solution.
Right. I think, yeah, I don't think Kibana is out there to replace any enterprise reporting or analytical applications, right? They both have their own use cases. This is more in place analytics that is more helping the users make better decisions and also better navigate within the application, those types of things. But I would still assume that we will continue to have other applications, enterprise level, for example, OBIE and those type of things will continue to exist and for reporting purposes and other things. So.
Yeah, and there's a similar question from Bill about advantages to switch from Tableau to Cabana. They've been using Tableau for several years and have custom dashboards, or are companies using both? And I know that I've heard Oracle say that if you're using other reporting tools and data warehouse type things, you may want to continue doing that. The advantage of having Cabana within PeopleSoft is it is within PeopleSoft, and it's for reporting your PeopleSoft data. So if you've got data that's being pulled into a data warehouse, that's kind of a different thing than the analytics that you would have in Cabana. But I think that's kind of a look at it and assess based on what your needs are.
Yeah, I agree that there. I think like I was saying earlier, right? The enterprise level stuff, all that will continue to exist. I don't think you would want to go out and convert all that into Kibana, right? That's not the intent of this. There's more within the application. Yes, there are dashboards out there, reporting out there outside of PeopleSoft, and users may just log in there and do their stuff over there, right? But while they're within PeopleSoft, it certainly will help if they have some visual data visualizations while they're interacting with the data within PeopleSoft, or even searching for information within PeopleSoft. So I think they need to be looked at separately as tools for different use cases, really.
Say for the financial side, one pro of like a Cabana over something like Tableau is our internal reporting. They want to have a little more control over when data is published. You know, because if financials are complete or at a certain time of the month, you know, they don't want to misrepresent something to operations. So, you know, the fact that we could kind of control maybe more of that index scheduling from a financial side, and when that gets pushed to a dashboard there, you know, that could be a big benefit on the finance side versus having some other team that might control the Tableau and the data warehouse and having to coordinate all of that.
Yeah, and there's some questions coming in about Cabana in a data warehouse. And, you know, Cabana is an open source tool, so it can certainly be used anywhere you want to use it. But with using it with PeopleSoft, Cabana is dependent on indexes. So it's not doing a direct database connection to pull the information in. From the PeopleSoft perspective, it actually uses Integration Broker to pull data and pull it into the Elasticsearch indexes, and then it uses that data to pull things into Cabana. So it's hitting your database to pull the data into the indexes, but at the time that you're actually doing any of the visualizations, it's not hitting the database at all, it's hitting the index. So that's where you get the performance benefit, because you can have a lot of people in there looking at the visualizations at one time, but it's not going to affect your database performance at all because it's not touching your database. And I think that's really one of the bigger advantages to having it, especially if you have a lot of people that are doing reporting at the same time.
Yeah, I think on that topic, I think that's the question. I'm assuming the one you're referring to is it possible to connect Kibana to just a database? Is that the one you were referring to, Michelle?
Yeah, both that and the one before.
Okay. Yeah, just to add to that, right? Yes, if Elk Stack is an open source technology stack, so you can install it anywhere and connect it on the back end to anything. Now, Kibana relies on Elasticsearch indexes. Elastic relies on, you know, it relies on data to be indexed, and it can provide search capabilities. So can that be done? Yes, it can be done. So, but that's not something you would do through PeopleSoft, right? Or through the install that's provided through PeopleSoft. You just use the open source version if you were to do something like that. Just for an understanding perspective, why this is important for PeopleSoft is the fact that users don't have to log into a separate application that will be Kibana right now, and it provides that built-in security and everything. So you're logged into PeopleSoft, and then you have your row-level security and all that flowing through as well. So that is the additional bolt-on to Kibana that kind of makes this attractive from an end-user experience point of view. So just a little bit more clarification on that.
That's a very good point to make, Sasank. And just to add on to that, I know in 859, if you do have additional data outside of PeopleSoft that you want to show in your visualizations, they're going to allow file uploads so that you can load additional data into the indexes from outside of PeopleSoft and have it available to show within your visualizations. So they are going to be making it a lot more robust.
That was one point I took away from Reconnect that I was really interested in, because like on our financial side, we have a separate application for revenue recognition. So it's financial related data, but it's not in PeopleSoft. So through that capability, is that something where we can kind of bring those two pieces together in a visual and help them get our financials users get a more overall picture of what's going on with revenue?
There's a question out here about, did anyone develop any custom Cabana dashboards? If so, can you give a little outline on those? I know we have not. I've seen some demos. It doesn't look terribly difficult, but
Yeah, I can speak to that if no one else has got experience here. But I have done some just from proof of concept point of view, not that I've deployed them in production here at FSU. And also I've presented this particular topic at Reconnect, I believe, and a few other recent conferences. So if you're a request member, you can probably find that section where I did an end-to-end, how you would take a custom data, any data, right? And how would you index it to start with, and then how you can move ahead and start building some dashboards. Everything is really configuration, so how easy it is, it's hard to say. I mean, I don't want to oversimplify or overcomplicate it, but it is, in my opinion, not a really complex task. It takes a little bit of understanding, but once you know the flow, it's mainly configuration, so you're not really sitting and writing code or developing all these dashboards yourself. You're just leveraging the dashboards templates that are provided and just feeding the data into it. So yeah, check out my yeah, I got some resources there.
I think I'd echo that as well. From our side, we are new to the journey of Cabana. So the way we've approached it is, let's use it for one of the use cases we know that the users are interested in. So we're looking at the recruitment module or internal recruitment for us. We're going to look at those kind of delivered visualizations. Obviously, you can tell from my accent, I'm based in the UK, so we are having to try and change the US map to a UK map. But once we've actually gone through that and got familiar with it, our plan is then to actually sort of look at real areas where we could build our own kind of dashboards, and billing and finance is a key area for us. But one of the things that our team, and I've got some business analysts looking at this, the feedback from the business analysts is one of the things they really like about it is that you don't have to go back to the development team to build these. They feel that they can build it, and business analysts can work very closely with the building, with the business teams to actually really define something and create something that the business are going to really use. So I think one of the benefits we do see is being able to create it in a non-technical team.
And there's a question on how easy is it to create and maintain indexes for custom tables. Creating an index starts with creating a query. So by it's no more difficult to create and maintain them for custom tables than it is to create them for delivered tables. So I don't know if that answers your questions, but it's creating the indexes isn't difficult. I know we've been doing that for a while just for search. And there's another question about the file upload capability. Is it available on 858? I believe that is only available on 859.
Yep.
Kenny asked, go ahead.
Yeah, this one is really good about demarcation of who does what, right? That's a great question. I've been thinking about this. This is my opinion. I'd like to hear from others in the panel as well. So as Michelle said, right, it takes, where does it sit? I don't know, but I feel like it's a joint effort. Everybody needs to work together because the whole process involves, first of all, identifying your data source, right? What data do you want to visualize. So that requires a little bit of work between, let's say, your typical developers and a business analyst type of resource to come up with the requirements, right? And then the first step, once you do that, next is you need to build the PS queries. That could be development maybe, or even the business analyst can do that. And then it moves on to search framework configuration, right? So potentially that might be a developer thing, or it could be an administrator, PeopleSoft administrator's task over there. And Kibana dashboards after that, that's again a gray area, who would do those, but it could be, in my opinion, either the developers or it could even be the administrators. It could fall anywhere there. And then once you build your dashboards in Kibana, you need to go back into PeopleSoft and do some configurations in the search framework. So I think I don't think you can clearly say it's one team. It needs to be some a collaborative effort, and then figure out how you want to kind of have that workflow of how things go about it. Once you figure out one or two, I think it'll get easier moving forward. So, yeah, that's just a great question. I don't think I have a clear answer for that, but I think something to think about as you're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with you on the collaborative approach from it, because that's exactly what we're doing. And yeah, what we're looking to do is we use a model office kind of concept with the business team. So our business analysts will, make sure that they'll put a new feature, new function into our model office, and use that to actually liaise with the business about how to configure it and get it to work for the business. We see Cabana in exactly that way. That our business analyst team can help actually set it all up. They can demo it to the business, and they can work collaboratively and update it on the fly to actually sort of make sure it actually delivers exactly what the business require. So we are really trying to set it up as a configurable tool set without it having to go all the way back to development each time. But collaboration is definitely the word I'd use.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Once you build a good data source, good indexing information, right, that is flattened out in a way that it can scale in the future, it may the same index can be used for other visualizations as you have requirements. So yeah, absolutely. Once you initially have that figured out in terms of the data sourcing and indexing, then it might just become very much a configuration that anyone can do quickly.
So Mark, just to kind of follow up what you were saying, so do you have business analysts that have that role then to be able to do the Cabana dashboards when they actually get into that Cabana editor? Who handles that side?
Yeah, the way my business analyst team is actually structured is that they're almost specialists by, almost PeopleSoft product, if you like. So I've
Sure.
got somebody that may focus in finance, somebody in HCM, somebody in the billing AR kind of area. And so what they like about it is that they can work with their colleagues or the SMEs in those particular areas in the business, and actually provide them some real information and knowledge within PeopleSoft. I think the embedding in PeopleSoft is a key one for us, and that they can actually do their jobs far better as a result of that. So I think it's really helped facilitate that. So I'm not looking to, have a Cabana business analyst, if you like, but I'm looking to actually get all my business analysts to be able to actually utilize this particular tool, because I think it's so exciting. I think the business, every time they see it, they really like it, and for us, it's actually really improving that in a collaborative relationship we have between the IT business analyst and the business-related SME or business process expert.
I think we're looking at trying to be more collaborative about it as well. I know that we tend to do a lot of collaboration anyway, because the technical side often helps the functional side determine exactly what kind of data and how to pull data together, especially for complex reporting. So we tend to work kind of collaboratively anyway, and I see us doing that with Cabana as well.
Christina, it looks like there might be some hands raised out there as well now.
Yeah, just Tracy, if you want, I just believe I unmuted you if you would like to join the conversation. I think you may have to unmute on your side first. And I still see her muted. Doesn't look like she unmuted herself yet. Also, just for folks that don't know, Sasank dropped into the chat his How You Can Build From Scratch blog. It's a great resource. If you guys don't follow him, it's a great resource, but also it's in the chat there for anybody that's asking specifically. I believe all the questions have been answered.
There seems one more here question. So the source for the search index has to be PeopleSoft queries, and what kind of queries? Yes, data source for search indexing, primarily the way they're delivered are through PS query. There are some other options too, but I have not explored them. Mostly they need to be PS queries or connected queries. So you can look up, there's a lot of documentation on the search framework on PeopleBooks, so what the data sources can be. Very much similar to how you would build data sources for, let's say, BI Publisher or something similar to that, right? So
thanks for catching that question. Any other questions from anybody? I did see earlier that there were just some folks asking about where they can get more resources. If you guys are not familiar, there is peoplesoftinfo.com. And if you go to that site, there is a lot of really great information, but you can look under the analytics. And then when you get there, there is a tab for Cabana. Also, the PeopleSoft app blog, app strategy, and the technology blogs are having a lot of information out there in it, as well as the YouTube channel. But again, if you just go to peoplesoftinfo.com, all those sites, all the pages are on there that link out to all additional resources, but some really great information going out there and use cases and quick demos on dashboards and everything that are being pushed out. I'm also curious, I know we talked a little bit about, how do you convince earlier, and from the panelists and for the rest of the folks that are on the call as well, what are some of the barriers that you guys maybe see or how you guys are approaching that? I know that, training was one, and there's some really good videos and starting points out there, but be curious of if you guys are seeing any barriers as you explore using Cabana.
I don't think we're seeing any barriers as such. I think there is we've got to get familiar with the tool, and that's what we're going through at the moment. We've had a few little internal challenges to actually get it all set up and running smoothly. Got to, as I mentioned earlier, almost change some of the delivered visualizations, such as the map, kind of to actually get us to work for our region. But apart from that, I think we're just going through that exercise now of getting familiar with the tool and building up our knowledge. So I don't think we've had barriers as such.
yeah, I can see where the question is coming from. Really, if you have an organization where everything is managed within the same unit, right? At least the PeopleSoft level, the database layer and everything, then you probably wouldn't have as much resistance. That's more an organizational thing that goes on, right? We've all worked in IT for a while. The other scenario is if it's distributed in the sense that the database layer is managed by a separate unit in the organization, then they're purely Oracle DBAs or whatever, right? And so that becomes a challenge sometimes to explain why we may need to do something out of the ordinary. So yeah, I can see where that can be a concern, and that's something we'll just need to power through, I guess, as an educate them a little bit as to what exactly the technology is and why we need that triggers and whatever else is required. So
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. And I think that's probably just generally right as you look at new tool sets and implementing pieces. Those seem pretty normal. It looks like one of the attendees said, we found that Cabana and Elasticsearch is joined at the hip technically, i.e. the PIA, Elasticsearch, and Cabana must all be on SSL or none. Are you guys also finding that?
That is true, actually. There is some code in 858. I don't know, I haven't looked at 859, but there is some code behind the scenes that requires Kibana as well as Elastic to both be on HTTPS, that is SSL, right? Because I think it is looking at the wrong place in some cases. Maybe it's fixed in 859, I don't know, but I have seen, or at least it's possible for customers to have Elastic on not on SSL, right? And now with Kibana, which is going to be a front-facing application, you would want it to be on SSL. So the decoupling can be done. There are, if you look at the psadmin.io and other forums, you would find that folks have done it. It's just not a configuration. You may need to do some minor code changes, at least in 858. But it is just to back up here. I'm just talking, how you can make it happen. But I wouldn't think it's the advice or best practice that Oracle would provide. Is that their expectation is Kibana and Elastic are behind SSL anyway, right? The general security best practices, that's what they would recommend.
Thank you. I still don't see any additional questions or hand raises or anything like that. For the panelists on the phone, just to give people just maybe another minute or so to drop any questions that they may have. Anything else that you guys would leave the audience? Any tips, tricks, any last thoughts around Cabana?
I think we covered most of it really. I think PeopleSoft Info is a great place to start, and I believe there are some spotlight videos also. So start with the Oracle documentation, and of course on the forums, and yeah, it'd be great to have some discussion on the Quest PeopleSoft Technology SIG as well. If you have questions, just post them there, and as the board, we can try to look up and find resources for you there as well.
And I had attended another session where they talked about getting started with Cabana, and the advice was don't wait for something to be delivered. Use an example as a template and just build your own. Be sure to review the Cabana sections on PeopleSoftInfo.com. You do need to be on Tools 858 in order to use Cabana. Pick a delivered one and just kind of show your leadership what it can do. Pilot a dashboard to a group of users, and then try deploying your own Cabana dashboard that replaces a manual report that's being run today. And I think that those are all good ideas of places to start.
Yeah, on our finance side, we have a number of our users that they like manually are putting together dashboards in an Excel file. So they're pivoting and doing charting and stuff in there. And we're not on 858 on the FSCM side yet, and some of you in the audience might be in kind of that same boat. But what I kind of tried to start doing is kind of making notes of what our users are out there and what they're building manually today, and then seeing, when we get to this level, is that a process we can automate for them by giving them a dashboard that's showing that same information, digitally through the system, and kind of get them out of that manual building it if they're already running queries or reports out of the system anyways to do that.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because I agree with what the other panelists said. I think for me, it's getting this in front of users so they can see, what it's capable of doing. We are fortunate enough to, as I mentioned right at the beginning, have Rebecca Jackson do a little art of the possible in HCM for our HCM directors, and this Cabana was by far the feature that they all said we want that and we want that now. So I do think it's a case of, really just, getting it loaded, getting it in front of your stakeholders, because I think they'll really drive their interest, and they'll get really engaged with you about PeopleSoft and its capabilities, because I think Cabana actually is such a massively powerful tool that I think you'll get a lot of interest from your stakeholders. So I would just get and show them, even if it's that kind of initial delivered visualization piece. I think it will start the conversation about, can it also do this, and what about that, and that's where you can start to build your own dashboards.
So there is another question here, Christine. Have you seen that? About potentially having more questions later, and is there anyone who can do a quick live demo? Do we have time now to do that?
Yeah, if one of you guys want to do a live demo, I'm happy to pass you the rights over. But I also say that, I think there are a lot of folks on this call that are probably just evaluating it, and there'll be plenty more sessions and opportunities, I think, to ask questions and see demos as well. So
yeah, I think we can do that maybe.
yeah, I think we could, we also, just to throw out there, we have Reconnect Dive Deep coming up in October. It's a great opportunity, I think, to also continue the conversation around what we're talking about. We are planning to do demos and have more quick tip sessions and sessions like this that's just open conversation. So I would encourage, to attend, but also for folks that maybe are using Kibana already to submit in, but also folks that are maybe just have questions, join us and be host of roundtables like this and conversations, allowing you to just continue that conversation and ask questions itself. So, again, check out the websites. PeopleSoftInfo.com has quite a few things. The Quest website has several, and you can do a search for Cabana. There were quite a few sessions at the Envision conference, and continuing to push out more information as we possibly can as we get more. I don't see any other questions right now. So what I'll do is, just as a reminder, we did record the session. We'll post it on the Quest website here shortly as soon as it's ready, and you guys will have access to this recording on that site. Again, Sasank dropped in his blog where he walks you through how you can build them by scratch. So please make sure you grab that as well if you're interested in it. We'll continue this conversation on the Quest site. Feel free to go to the technology SIG and ask questions. Feel free to continue to watch for webinars and pieces like that that come out, blogs, newsletters around the topic. I think it's one of the hottest topics that is right now. And we'll just continuing to be a part of the conversation. Sasank did just put out a clarification. I think somebody was saying they can't wait to be on 859 to use it, just to make sure everybody knows you can check it out in 858. So don't let 859 be the barrier for you guys in that tool. Sasank, Mark, Michelle, Zach, thank you guys for taking the time to participate in this forum, working with us, providing your all's feedback, showing us where you guys are. For the attendees on the phone, hopefully you guys enjoyed this session and the broad range of expertise that we have on here. So thank you guys again for joining us, and we look forward to you guys joining us for another session and to continue to learn a little bit more. Have a great day. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time. Bye.
Thank you.